Welcome to the Hermitcraft Recap. My name is Pixel Rift, our writer is LoyXP, and we've reached a stack of recaps for this season, or 2 and a bit shulker boxes if you count them as non-stackable items.
Yay!
Also, a day 1 recap was a thing, so this is week 64, but episode 65. As you can see, we're very good at overthinking stuff. So now, let's overthink all the events and mishaps that occurred on the Hermitcraft server this week.
And remember, young ones, the path to true enlightenment begins not with riches, but at each end of life's most difficult journeys.
For one, it's worth pointing our conspiracy hats towards the return of the Jingler, who has made quite a splash when they changed the names of nearly every minigame in Hermitland.
Newly found diorite.
Dig Straight Down has been renamed to DDR. I have no idea what DDR could mean.
And Fall's Guess What game is now Guess Whomst, and there's also a jingled sign in front of this, so...
Naturally, the only reason they haven't been mercilessly pranked in return is that no one quite knows who the Jingler is, but Azumovoid does draw some parallels in that the return of this mysterious force of nature coincided with iJevin coming back to the server. And iJevin definitely was around the minigame district this week, taking a break to play Undying 2 before returning to his ocean-bound fidget spinner and adding more shelves to store stuff on.
I finished the storage part up. You know, we might be okay. There's a lot of space here.
Though, unlike his fidget spinner, this theory holds very little water, since TangoTek and ZAF2 have been threatening to come back since last week, so chances are they too are iJevin. Not to be discouraged by this happening, Cubfan gives the Jingler even more stuff to rename. Not only does he start a new minigame, a bizarre parkour course confined within a 1x1 space,
and then it gets a little bit tricky.
I should have looked at it perhaps a little bit closer. No, that's not going to work. Wait. Is there even a way to climb?
but the already renamed Ravager run is redecorated to look nicer on the outside, which includes a logo just asking to be pranked, just like anything else on this server that has a face. We get another face just as, if not more, memeable. False Symmetry decorates her new minigame into a very squished version of her head in a cowboy hat.
Actually, it goes really well with this design, actually, the cowboy sort of theme. Oh, we should have had themed areas in the games district. That would have been so cool.
In reality, it is a test of reflexes kind of game, where you and your opponents stand on the opposite sides of the play zone and wait for the signal to go off. After it does, whoever pulls the lever in front of them first wins, by blasting the other with firework rockets out of an overhead dispenser. And it's too bad we used up our Red Dead Redemption joke last week. Having faced down her greatest enemy, herself, False returns to her fantasy base to finish those aqueducts she started before going to Minecon. No solution for water texture Z fighting, but at least it looks physically possible now that she added support pillars. She leaves behind the town of Falsewell just as TFC arrives, which makes the place both an alien-themed tourist trap and a ghost town. TFC pokes his head into the gift shop, the museum, and the hippies' second RV toilet,
the Giant Underground Shroom Festival, or whatever it was.
Quietly storms Area 77 2 weeks later than everyone else, then storms back out again using an Ender Pearl, and rounds off his trip to 1.14 lands with a quick visit to the Falsewell Diner. That's enough to work up an appetite for creativity back at his vault base, where he builds a kitchen adjoining the main storage room, then spices up the imitation park with some leafy bushes.
Yeah, I think that'll be a little better.
Joe Hills is practicing a spookier form of gardening in his attempts to resurrect the Halloween district. A giant pumpkin patch is planted to fill the space between the nether portal and his abandoned church project, mostly to make sure nobody builds something in front of it and ruins the village's rustic aesthetic. The hermits are free to come and harvest the pumpkins anytime, as long as they can make it past the signs.
Also, I kind of blocked the path a little bit there, although all of the pumpkins are also blocking the path.
The next task is to get rid of the torch spam in the churchyard, but he points out that the jack-o'-lanterns aren't really very tasteful next to the actual graves, so he puts them in the graves instead, covered with carpet, and the Joe-o'-lanterns he chooses to line the perimeter with are actually just lanterns.
I am feeling really good about this.
It's back to the pumpkin patch for Impulse SV once the facade for the Perfection minigame is done anyway. Perhaps in preparation for the return of Tango, or maybe just because he wants to go ham on some more Redstone, Impulse returns to the Lag District, where he has oversized bamboo, pumpkin, and other crop farms. In installing some new dropper clocks and water streams, but not a storage system, he sets off all the farms for a test run and narrowly avoids crashing the server with a perfect sphere of item entities.
And for some reason, I end up with a hopper So somehow there was hoppers in there? Alright, that's a little bit confusing.
With that stress test taken care of, he spots a few gold nuggets and decides to hunt down some more, cashing them in at NFD. But there's a milestone to observe, and his 100th episode sees him looking back through his favourite clips of the last year and a bit. So watch that if you want to remember a time when the shopping district was all fields and Impulse was the richest hermit on the server.
Welcome back to the present. Thank you so much for going on that journey with me, and what an incredible journey it has been.
Nowadays, there are new enterprises and get-rich-quick schemes every week, and Bdubs seems to be coming up with 3 every episode. After having his jimmies jingled by a few well-placed signs and a sighting of the Salmon Ghost,
I'm actually going to remove this. We're going to... What was that? Sure. What is this pickle?
he builds a gift shop for the Iron Golem skeleton, outlines his plans to make the house overlooking the skeleton more of an attraction, and even builds a hot air balloon in a spot guaranteed to get the best view of the area. Getting up there quickly is easy in theory, but getting up there alive is a lot harder. Bdubs' TNT player launcher has to go back to the drawing board when it blows him up, along with all his possessions, meaning it's about as safe as the average backyard theme park, but it's hard to make the big bucks when the visitor's entire inventory gets destroyed as well.
No! Why? I tested that like crazy in a test world!
Then again, Azuma's minigame straight up kills people, and that didn't stop, say, Cleo playing it. And speaking of zombie Cleo and killing people, on her diorama of the Hermitcraft gang road trip, TangoTek is attached to the bottom of the car. Glorious. Other than that, she doesn't do much armor standing this week, resorting to her underground secret beach that gets a significant facelift, including the most cinematic creeper death ever.
Hang on. No! Not my pufferfish! Alright, which one of you killed him?
Naturally, as a pirate, she can't pass up the nuggets for diamonds treasure, and upon finding some, runs back to Hermitlands to cash them out. So does Azuma, though his haul seems much bigger than anyone else's. It's especially funny because the rest of the participants would find like 5 and stop at that, so somebody else could participate. As it turns out, that somebody else was specifically Azuma.
I know how this works, okay? Months from now, we'll be wandering around the server still finding these. It's like the Grian headhunt.
Though he will need the cash if he keeps obsessively stocking the idea warehouse like he did this time. The first aisle to be added to the all-you-can-build shop is the dye aisle, which meant a lot of varied colour sources and a nice assonant name. The yellow variety instantly comes in handy for a map-sized super pixel art of the Idea Store logo, which is only mildly infringing on some very Swedish copyright. For future stock purposes, or rather purposes, Azuma starts a chorus fruit and chorus flower farm within one of the skyscrapers, betting for some reason on people wanting to build with Purple Brick, which in 64 weeks of this server has happened all of maybe twice. Across the lake, Python certainly doesn't plan to use it for his expansion of the Tower Bay Peninsula, which seems to be sticking to the quartz and white concrete theme no matter what. After the brief distraction to go nugget hunting, in which Python also does the community service of removing the invisible armor stands too, he gets back to outlining the builds, which will include the Council of Cookie, or as we're thinking of it, the First Church of Jingler, and a secret vault in a building signposted Python's Vault on the outside.
Well, that works! For whatever reason, that works, and there we go. That's the exact intended effect, ladies and gentlemen.
Having got a taste of how powerful trading is these days, he plans to dedicate a few structures to housing more cooperative villagers. At least his villager homes don't look like a breakfast food, unlike Mumbo's, which, well...
It looks a little bit like a waffle. It does look kind of cool, though.
After the double loss of the trading hall contest between himself and Iskal, Mumbo goes back to the drawing board and to the ocean around the Mumball for his latest attempt at a trading zone. This time the farmers inside the shell have a little more freedom to roam, so they can get to whichever workstations they please, and the Chewy Center chews back. At the flick of a lever, a zombie can reach the villagers and convert them, then a button press and some golden fruit later, he's got 1-for-1 trades on melons and pumpkins. When he needs a break, he briefly stops by the Nuggets for Diamonds kiosk to check everything's running smoothly, and is so happy people are playing the game, he doesn't even realise the game has changed.
Wait, what? I'm just going to ignore that nugget there. Newly found diorite. Oh, Iskal is not going to be happy about this.
And finally, there's Rendog, who begins by reintroducing us to copyright-safe rat persona and all-round nice guy, Tomato Yoshi, last seen stepping through a nether portal at Area 77 and finding himself marooned on a jungle island. Following Rendog's instructions, he manages to mine his first diamonds, thus completing his ninja training, although the secrets of the ooze may not have been revealed to him just yet. For that, maybe he'll have to build a slime farm. Back on Hermitcraft Prime, Rendog has been putting in the work at the Speedy Pines Raceway, which was almost the Seedy Pines Raceway for a minute there. Either way, it now has some fixes for exploits with the Raceway timer, some Redstone, TM, to switch it from time trial mode to practice lap mode, and a new fastest lap time to beat.
And did I mention, it's almost my birthday, my dudes. So if you're watching this episode on the day that it was released, please say happy birthday to the Rendiggity doll, because...
He's not the only one using gold nuggets for minigames though, and like many of his server mates, he gets swept up in the search for gold and the swapping for diamonds. By which time the Jingler has done their work and turned it into the Speedy Vines Raceway behind his back. We're not sure how many puns on the name are left at this point, but don't worry, we'll find some.
I just made this sign. Really, Jingler?
In the meantime, Ren adds a fancy block-swapping elevator, starts working on the Pavilion Clubhouse, and time-lapses some walkways around the pit garage. So pretty soon we'll be watching hermits row their boats at about max 6.
And I'm not entirely sure what this looks like. I think it's the carburetor. You know, the thing that you see on a motorbike with all the grills and whatnot on it. I think it actually turned out to look more like a waffle machine.
And that's just about it for this week's recap. Our writer is LoyXP, and my name is Pixel Riffs. Are you getting into the Halloween spirit early? Don't miss Loy's Truly Bedrock episode 50, subtitled The House That Drips Beef. And if you want some real horror, you could watch him play RL Craft. That's our double feature in the End Screen Theatre this week. Don't forget to leave a like on this video while you're still here and subscribe so you won't miss future recaps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.